St. Croix Senate Forum puts accountability, health care, crime, and cost of living on the main stage, from a concerned wife of the Virgin Islands. The Democratic Party of the Virgin Islands, St. Croix Senatorial Forum, gave voters a lively and very revealing look at the candidates asking for their trust in 2026. Held at the St. Croix Educational Complex, the forum brought together Democratic Senate hopefuls and sitting lawmakers to discuss the issues voters feel every day: rising costs, government accountability, health care, education, crime, small business survival, and whether St. Croix is getting its fair share. The candidates included Omar Henry, Besse Gonzalez, Dwight Cartier, Lynda Nikki Brooks, Lisa J. Charles Nemmy Jackson, Clifford A. Joseph, Hubert L. Frederick, Kurt A. Vialet, and Senator-at-Large Angel Bolques Jr. Senator Kenneth "Kenny" Gittens was listed as a candidate but was absent from the forum. The evening had its share of campaign commitments, passionate declarations, and the cutting off the mic moments. But beneath the different platforms and personalities, there will always be serious questions for voters. Who has the clearest plan? Who understands the machinery of government? Who can explain how they would actually move the Virgin Islands forward? One important note for readers: while some questions were asked to all candidates, others were rotated among different candidates, so the comparisons below are based on the answers each candidate had the opportunity to give. The biggest takeaway: everybody says accountability, but not everybody defined it the same way. If one word dominated the forum, it was accountability, but the candidates separated themselves by how specific they got. Kurt Vialet leaned on his experience in the legislature and argued that budget oversight is one of the legislature's main jobs. He said senators must be willing to call departments in, ask hard questions, and follow the money with a fine-tooth comb. Hubert Frederick gave a more technical answer, saying the legislature's real budget tools are spending caps and line-item appropriations. Lisa Charles and Lynda, Nikki, Brooks both pushed for more frequent check-ins with departments, not just once-a-year budget hearings. Nemmy Jackson went a step further by arguing that if there are no penalties for misusing appropriated funds, accountability becomes an endless circle with no consequence. Angel Bolques Jr. focused on quarterly public reporting and more transparent agency updates through the Office of Management and Budget. Voters understand that accountability can be an easy campaign word. We will see which senators, if elected, actually call agencies back every quarter, attach penalties to misuse of funds, publish spending reports, or simply promise to monitor things. Cost of living: Vialet went after prices, Frederick went after spending, Charles went after seniors. On affordability, the candidates showed different philosophies. Vialet pointed to raising the minimum public salary and co-sponsoring a minimum wage increase, then argued that the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs must more aggressively monitor supermarkets, freight companies, and gas stations. Frederick framed the problem through the lens of a banker and businessman: control government costs, grow the economy, increase competition, and encourage residents to be more prudent with spending. Charles focused on seniors living on fixed incomes and called for more in-home support services and stronger job placement pipelines for students coming out of vocational schools and UVI. Voters should contemplate which approach to affordability across all candidates feels most realistic, and which candidate can actually turn that approach into law. Health care showed where the candidates took different paths in policy recommendations. Healthcare produced some of the most detailed answers. Clifford Joseph focused on hospital billing, collections, and the need for hospital boards willing to make tough decisions. Brooks zeroed in on hospital board vacancies, saying the board is supposed to have 9 members but only has 3, and she called for a financial audit to find out where the money is going. Jackson gave one of the more technical answers of the night, connecting hospital finances to the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act of 1982 and outdated federal reimbursement formulas. She said the territory should push Congress for reimbursement based on current health care costs. Bolques brought up a bill idea involving EDC companies and charitable contributions, saying hospitals should be able to receive those donations, and that companies receiving large tax breaks should not be able to simply route required donations into nonprofits they created themselves. The best healthcare path for the territory will likely require a combination of strong ideas. Voters need senators with the knowledge, discipline, and political will to turn those ideas into results. Education and youth, teachers, trades, telehealth, and the Youth Rehabilitation Center. Education was another area where the candidates revealed priorities. Gonzalez emphasized teachers, school safety, affordable housing for educators, and paid pathways for local residents who want to become teachers. Cartier focused on finishing school reconstruction projects, strengthening career and technical education, aligning education with local workforce needs, and properly managing federal education funds. Vialet briefly pushed for a stronger K-3 foundation, with entrance and exit exams tied to intervention. Jackson later called for reducing bureaucracy in education, having the superintendent hired by the Board of Education, requiring the superintendent to be certified, and training school personnel to better serve autistic children. Bolques said he wants to move forward with telehealth and telemedicine services for students to support overburdened counselors and therapists. Gonzalez also made youth rehabilitation one of his major priorities, saying his first piece of legislation would focus on revamping and rebuilding the Youth Rehabilitation Center so young people can receive care, discipline, education, and trades. On crime, candidates looked beyond policing alone. On crime, the candidates mostly agreed that police funding alone is not enough. Vialet gave one of the bluntest answers, saying crime is a community problem and that people cannot stay silent when they know guns, stolen items, or criminal behavior are in their homes or neighborhoods. Frederick connected crime prevention to homeownership and single-family housing, while also openly supporting legal firearm ownership. Charles argued that crime prevention begins inside out, meaning in the home, with parents, structured activities, and community responsibility. Brooks tied public safety to mental health, later calling for stronger 988 crisis intervention and a mobile crisis team that can work alongside police. Economic diversification, energy, agriculture, manufacturing, and the Caribbean Basin Initiative. When asked what industries the territory should prioritize beyond tourism, the candidates offered very different paths. Joseph argued that St. Croix should connect the refinery to the electric grid to lower energy costs and attract businesses. Brooks pushed agriculture, saying the territory imports about 97% of its food and should incentivize stores and larger companies to buy directly from local farmers. Jackson focused on light manufacturing and maximizing the South Shore Enterprise Zone. Bolques pointed to modernization of the Caribbean Basin Initiative, naming ship registries, fintech, microdistilleries, and manufacturing as areas that could expand the territory's tax base. Voters must decide which ideas can produce actual jobs, lower costs, and keep money circulating locally. These rankings reflect forum performance, clarity, specificity, and command of the issues. They are not polling, prediction, or endorsement. Top 4 Forum Standouts. 1. Kurt Vialet, the institutional heavyweight. Vialet was the strongest overall performer if the standard is command of government process. He answered like someone who understands budgets, committees, implementation problems, and the limits of the legislature. He did not just say, hold them accountable. He explained how budget hearings, department questioning, and executive enforcement failures fit together. His strongest moments came on affordability, St. Croix's fair share, budget oversight, and the gap between passing a law and actually getting the executive branch to enforce it. 2. Nemmy Jackson, the technical accountability candidate. Williams-Jackson stood out because she gave specific structural answers instead of just emotional ones. Her TEFRA reimbursement answer on hospital funding was one of the most policy-heavy responses of the night. Her call for penalties when government funds are misused also cut straight to the weakness in many accountability conversations. If there is no consequence, the system keeps repeating itself. She also connected education reform to certification standards and support for autistic students. 3. Frederick, the business and budget candidate. Frederick's lane was clear: fiscal restraint, business growth, energy reliability, and practical government spending. He repeatedly returned to controlling costs and growing the economy, and his comments about unreliable power hurting small businesses were among the most relatable of the night. He also gave specific answers on derelict buildings, budget caps, line-item appropriations, and mental health facilities. Voters looking for a business-minded, cost-conscious candidate likely heard what they wanted from Frederick. 4. Bolques Jr., the at-large perspective. Bolques is running as senator at-large, not as a St. Croix district candidate in the Democratic primary, but based on forum performance he still belongs in the top 4. He came prepared with bill numbers, existing legislative work, and broader economic development language. His strongest answers were on redirecting EDC charitable giving toward hospitals, modernizing the Caribbean Basin Initiative, and requiring more regular agency reporting. He also had the most memorable slogan of the night: "Don't guess, vote Bolques." Honorable mentions. Lynda Nikki Brooks had strong moments on mental health, hospital board vacancies, agriculture, and quarterly accountability. Dwight Cartier came across strongest when discussing federal project management, school reconstruction, and workforce alignment. Besse Gonzalez was most compelling when speaking about youth, teachers, and the Youth Rehabilitation Center. Lisa Charles brought a grounded human services perspective, especially on seniors, caregivers, and in-home support. Clifford Joseph was strongest on hospital billing, board toughness, financial disclosure, and energy as an economic development issue. Final voter takeaway. This forum showed who can speak well and connect the daily frustrations of Crucians to the actual levers of government. In general, the strongest candidates did 3 things. They named a real problem, identified the government tool that could address it, and explained what they would do first. By that measure, the night belonged to candidates who moved beyond general concern and gave voters something more useful, a glimpse of how they would lead from the legislature. From a concerned wife of the Virgin Islands, subscribe to receive more updates on VI-related matters like these.